up, nation? Hope you're having a good, or at least not a terrible Monday. My name, of course, is Philip DeFranco, and if you're not familiar, this is where I talk about news type stuff and things that matter to me today. And nation, the first thing I want to talk about today is something you've probably already heard about over the weekend, and that was Asiana Airlines Flight 214 that crashed at the San Francisco International Airport. It happened on Saturday, and you probably heard about it because, one, you care about news, or two, you had a friend or follow someone on Twitter that somehow made this terrible tragedy into something about themselves and how they're scared about their flight, blah, blah, blah. My judging of those people aside, let's talk about what we know about this crash. We know that the plane was a Boeing 777 that started in Shanghai, went to Seoul, and then was on its way to San Francisco. While some of the early reports are conflicting on the number and how extensive the injuries are, reports are saying there were 2 deaths, and that being 2 16-year-old Chinese girls, and upwards of 180 injured. What's even worse is there was an autopsy on one of the 16-year-old girls, and it seems that she may not have actually died on the plane. The 16-year-old girl's body was found near the evacuation slide, and the San Francisco fire chief said her injuries are consistent with having been run over. It could have been one of our vehicles that added to the injuries or another vehicle. This could have been something that happened in the chaos. It will be part of our investigation. So one of these girls might have survived the plane crash but then was hit by emergency services. Right now, the NTSB, the FBI, and the FAA are all looking into why this happened. That includes everything from criminal activity, terrorism, mechanical failure, and of course, human error. Although the CEO of Asiana Airlines has ruled out mechanical failure, I don't know how. I mean, how odd is it that the airlines doesn't want to believe that it was their plane that messed up? According to a passenger, the crew gave really no sign of being in trouble or worrying about anything moments before impact. Numerous eyewitnesses said that the plane appeared to be approaching lower than is normal for an approach at San Francisco, and they heard the plane's engines accelerate hard just before impact. It appeared that the plane's tail or the landing gear hit the seawall at the edge of the runway before bouncing and coming to a stop off the runway. The jet then caught fire, with many passengers receiving burn injuries. The cockpit voice recorder, otherwise known as the black box, was also recovered. From that, they found that the flight was cleared for visual approach to runway 28 left, and this was confirmed by the crew. The approach proceeded normally throughout the descent. There was no discussion of aircraft anomalies, nothing really wrong. And then 7 seconds prior to impact, a crew member called for more speed. Then 4 seconds before impact, the sound of the stick shaker indicating a stall sounded off. And at 1.5 seconds prior to impact, there was a call for an aborted landing. But then, of course, the question, well, what about the pilots? What happened to them? Have they said anything? Well, the airlines is now saying that the pilot that was attempting to land this Boeing 777 was in training, and this was his first time trying to land a 777 in San Francisco International. And really, that's everything we know right now. Obviously, you don't want to throw blame on anyone. Usually around a plane crash, there's not just one thing that went wrong, and it's very likely we won't know what exactly happened until the FAA finishes their investigation. And then, nation, I want to talk about, like, the craziness that revolves around sports. Because, you know, you have pride for your insert whatever sport team. And so some people just go to the game, some people buy, you know, apparel, some people, they get tattoos. People even get into big, stupid fights, but probably the craziest sports story that I have heard in recent memory. A week ago in Brazil, there was an amateur football match for Americans, that is soccer. During the match, one of the players, a 30-year-old man by the name of Josenier dos Santos Abreu, received a red card, which meant he was going to be out of the match. So he decided to argue with the 20-year-old referee, a man by the name of Otavio da Silva. And that's where things reportedly escalated, with the player throwing a punch at the ref. In response, the ref whips out a knife he had on him and stabs the player in the chest. Ambulance shows up and rushes this guy to the hospital. While this is happening, the injured family's friends and family just storm the field, and they reportedly attack and tie up the referee. Then the player, who is on his way to the hospital, dies of his injuries. Then, according to witnesses, and seemingly true because there is video of Da Silva's body, he is beaten, stoned to death, lynched, and his body is ripped apart, and they put his head on a stake in the field. So far, only one man has been arrested, but the police chief said reports of witnesses have indicated some people that were in place at the time of the act. We will identify and hold accountable all those involved. And I guess the main points of this story: 1, everyone is apparently crazy, and 2, the 2016 World Cup could be the most interesting it's ever been for Americans ever. Then, in kind of awesome, and I don't know how long it's going to last news, if you have an iPhone, iPod Touch, iPad, and something that The Verge said could be related to the 5th anniversary of the Apple Store, there's a bunch of stuff in the store that is free that is not usually free. That includes Tractor DJ, which is normally $20, but now for free. Day One, which is actually kind of fantastic. Over, Barefoot World Atlas. Free games include Infinity Blade 2, which is normally like $7. Badland, Tiny Wings, Where's My Water, Super Brothers Sword, and Sorcery EP. So the main point of the story is I don't know why they are free, but they are free, and if you want to get them, like always, link down below. Don't say I never did none for you. Then let's talk about something interesting with Guantanamo Bay. We've talked about in the past, but right now there are over 100 detainees in Guantanamo Bay that are having a hunger strike. They're protesting their detainment and trying to raise awareness. And now with Ramadan starting, which if you don't know is about a month-long religious fast, we take another look at the situation because at least 40 of the detainees that are on hunger strike are being force fed. And we know exactly how they're doing this to them because there is a leaked document. It sets out the standard operating procedures on how you do it. And because there are many people like myself that have no idea how you force feed a grown man, a 4-minute film was made by human rights organization Reprieve and BAFTA award-winning director and US actor/rapper Mos Def. They conduct the full procedure on him. It is kind of hard to watch. Spoiler alert, this is how it ends.
Stop! Stop! Stop it, please! Stop! That is me. Please stop. I can't do it.
They reportedly do that 2 times a day to the people they're force feeding. If you want to see the full video, if you want to find out more about, everything Guantanamo, link down below. Then, and this is why we can't have nice things news, remember that game I mentioned last week and I was like, oh my god, it's finally available, and it's gonna be awesome, and we're gonna play together? That is Cube World. Well, people were downloading it and having a good time, and then no! The developer said his game servers were attacked. The creator, Wale, whose name I probably mispronounced, but you guys are gonna call me on it no matter what, said initially we assumed the fault was on our side, like our download/updating system could be broken, so we closed the sale and improved our system. But it turned out all these problems were the result of denial of service attacks, then tweeting out a picture of the crazy traffic stats. And I have to say, if it is in fact just like people trying to fuck with this, why would you fuck with an indie developer? Like, who's so much of an asshole? They're like, boo, people making things they love with people they enjoy being around because the creative process is awesome. I hate fun and creativity. But the main point is, if you were excited for the game, you're still excited for the game, you should follow Wale on Twitter because they're going up and down. On their blog, they said the attacks are happening in the evening and at night, European time. So there's that. And nation, the last thing I want to talk about today is Egypt. Remember last week when I was like, man, it's really weird that things didn't get super violent yet? Yeah, it kind of got super violent for a second. There are conflicting accounts of what actually happened, who actually started everything, but what we know is there was a sit-in protest of pro-Morsi protesters. They were outside of the Republican Guard building in Cairo. The protesters say that the army and the police just started attacking them. The army and police say they were attacked by protesters, came under heavy gunfire, and the reports are saying 51 protesters are dead with 435 of them wounded. According to the military, 2 policemen and 1 soldier were also killed, although Army Colonel Ahmed Mohammed Ali said, along with the soldier and the 2 policemen, 42 in the security forces were wounded, 8 of them critically. So we have both sides saying the other side did wrong. Interim President Adli Mansour calling for restraint and ordered a judicial inquiry into the killings, and the situation continues to slowly spiral out of control. And the ultimate question is, will things get better in Egypt? And you hope yes, but I usually don't bet on such a heavy underdog. And of course, as the situation develops, I will keep you up to date. But guys, that's everything I wanted to talk about for this video, and it brings us to the question of the day. The story of the plane crash just fuels my nightmares because I am deathly and irrationally afraid of airplanes, despite it being one of the safest ways to travel. So my question is, what are like the top 3 things you're scared of? And why? You don't have to have an answer. It can be irrational. I don't care. Remember to possibly be pelted with $50 worth of stuff from FullHumanPeoples.com. Leave a comment down below. Maybe while you're at it, hit the like button, favorite, subscribe. And of course, a big thanks to the sponsor of today's show, Netflix.com/PhillyD. Use that URL. You get a free month into streaming movies. But of course, as always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love your faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.